subscribe now and press the bell icon. Never miss an update.
Salam. Welcome to the Thenupurtewarishow. And today we have got very special guest. And he is none other than the ambassador from Israel to Japan, Mr. Gilad Cohen. And he is with us. Mr. Ambassador, welcome to the Thenupurtewarishow.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. Namaste.
Namaste, and I feel so honored and privileged that you made time for my show. Thank you so much. So I actually asked many people that what are your questions? So these are the questions I'm going to ask you. It's not really my personal, but the viewers. There were like hundreds of questions. They love you. Japan and India, especially the Indians, they just love you, love Israel. So the first question I'm going to ask you that this is our 30th diplomatic relationship. So in these years, what kind of development did you see between India and Israel?
Well, indeed, it's really fascinating what happened between India and Israel in the past 30 years. Before I came here as ambassador to Tokyo, I was the Director General for Asia and Pacific at the Israeli Foreign Ministry. So I was dealing also with India and Japan and other friends here in the region. I came with the Prime Minister Netanyahu in 2018 to Delhi, and it was a very nice visit. And of course, the relations with India are very, very important for me specifically. Now, 30 years ago, Israeli passport holders, Indian passport holders for 30 years couldn't go to Israel. It was said on the Indian passport, valid for all states but to Israel. And today, the relationship are really at their peak. I was just talking to my friend Naor Gilon, the Israeli ambassador to Delhi, and we discussed things that we achieved together. And now we are celebrating indeed 30 years of relations. I think we are working on a free trade agreement now, which I hope that will be signed this year. This agreement is very, very important for the two economies, but also to show the bond between Jerusalem and Delhi, New Delhi. We are planning on high-level visits from Israel for senior ministers and maybe the Prime Minister himself, Prime Minister Bennett. The two legs of or traditional legs of or pillars, let's say, of Israel-India relations were the agriculture by Mashav and the commercial agriculture, the agro-technology, but also the defense cooperation. But I think that today the relations are much wider than these two pillars, and it's spread really on all scope of agreements and fields, from space until technological cooperation, agriculture, water, and so on. So I do think that Israel and India share the same values and the same interests, and also really strategic partners.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ambassador. And as we saw that when India had the second wave of Corona last year, the normal Israeli citizen, the way they supported India emotionally, it was really incredible. And we are very much touched. Really, we are grateful to Israel for that support, emotional, all kind of support. So my second question is going to be, what are the major incentives Israel is considering to allow skilled Indians to work in Israel?
Well, first of all, regarding the aid, I think it's, we say, there is a saying, a friend in need is a friend indeed. And I think that it's not only that Israel stood up by India in the time that you were lacking of oxygen facilities and generators and things that to help your hospitals. And Israel sent it. I have also, even if you go to my Twitter account and my Facebook account, you will see I came there by myself. We had the Indian airplanes coming and sending to him. India stood by Israel when we needed, when we had to receive the facilities, gloves and protective measures, and also some ingredients for the medicines and others that we needed. So India stood by Israel. Prime Minister Modi stood by us when we needed it in the beginning of the corona. Now, regarding, and we always stand by India. That will be for sure. We will stand by India, and I believe that India will stand by Israel. And I think that regarding your question, Israel, is very, very famous in its high-tech capabilities. It's the number one startup. We call it a startup nation. It's the number one startup place in the world. Most of the investments in high-tech and in cyber, for example, are in Israel. 41% of last year investment, total world investment, were only in Israel. So, and more than $8 to even $9 billion only in innovation, high tech, and cutting edge technology. So I think that through this FTA, for example, and other measurements that Israeli Ministry of Economy and Ministry of Interior will open and will facilitate for also for Indian high-tech personnel to come and to work, and students. I think the cooperation within the academy is very, very important. And we have to make sure that we are doing it in the right way in order, for us to absorb Indians, for Israelis to work in India, but in a way that will not affect, let's say, the internal sector of workers. But I believe we can find a mechanism that can help both countries.
Thank you. So since you are looking after the Indo-Pacific and Japan and India, now Japan, India, Israel, actually, we have very common concern, many. So how do you see the Indo-Pacific partnership and how they can strengthen it? Like how Israel can help to strengthen the Indo-Pacific relationship?
Well, I want to tell you something. Israel has established its relations with India 30 years ago, with Japan 70 years ago, with Vietnam and China also 30 years ago, and with other partners here in the region, Korea and others many years ago. We don't take it for granted. And as a country that was isolated, that was banned, that was bashed unfairly, today we want to really live in peace, in good relations with all of the major partners here in Asia, and also the Pacific. Of course, Australia is a very good friend, really an ally of Israel. So what I'm saying is that we would like to have peace and tranquility in this region. We share with India the concept of freedom, of human rights, of democracy. It's the same values that Israel believed in. So I think that we can cooperate together with all of the partners in the region. And we see now what's happening, between Russia and Ukraine, and we hope that, things will calm down, and we hope that the common values in the region will prevail, and we'll have peace and tranquility and prosperity. This is what's important.
Exactly.
I hope it will happen here as well.
Exactly. So now we both are in Japan, and I belong India. I'm an Indian, and you are an Israeli. So now how the youth of three countries, Israel, India, and Japan, can bring the collaborative momentum forward in the complex geopolitical situation, how youth can help it, the youth's role. What do you think?
Again, as I said, we share same values, and I think that we can contribute to each other in many aspects. For example, in economy, boosting the trade, boosting trilateral cooperation, even with other partners. I think all three parties are very, very much concentrated in innovation. We have so many things that we can do together. I hope to have, even in culture, we hope to have in India for the first time ever a Bollywood production of an Israel being filmed in Israel, which will be amazing. I worked for it for many years. I even asked for a small role to play there, but they didn't allow me. I'm working here in Japan to have with TBS to have some kind of production, joint production, Israeli and Japanese. So this is about culture. You know, I'm so fascinated by what's happening here in Japan, and also by India. You know, one of the question was about how do I feel about Japan or India. I'm fascinated here, and I'm fascinated by India. I was a backpacker in India many years ago, and then I came back as a diplomat and as the head of the Asia Pacific. And I really love India and what it can offer, and the lovely people, and the food, and the art, and the harmony, and the religion, and tradition. And it's the same thing if I think about it, you know, it's also about Japan. It's the tradition, and religion, and food, and art, and harmony, and landscape, and people, and the hospitality. You know, I said to myself once that to be the DG for Asia and Pacific, and now to be the ambassador in Tokyo, is the happiest days of my life to be. So it's kind of, for me, it's really something that I'm looking at this in a kind of cooperation. And I think the cooperation can be also for the benefit of the three parties, you know, for the good of the three parties, you know, it's for things that we can do together to make more crops for the agriculture, to have this industry working better, to have more high tech and technology coming in to each other, to make solutions, to offer solutions. This is the world of today, and I think this is what we can do together, the three of us.
Exactly. Very beautifully you said. And since you said that you went to India as a backpacker, would love to know, how was the experience then?
Amazing. It was many years ago, but I came to India, and I came to Calcutta, and then to Varanasi, and then to Agra, and then up north to Manali and Leh and Amritsar and back and Punjab. Really, it was, and Delhi, of course, beautiful. I miss it, and I recommend to my children, go to India and also come to Japan. Your father is here, but you should go there and travel there. It's really one of the best places I've ever been there, and I have very good memories from my time in India, and I had very good memories from my time in India as in my previous capacity as in the foreign ministry, Israeli foreign ministry, really always welcoming us, always happy to see us, and really, you know, for me to come back to see again the Taj Mahal after 30 years after with the Prime Minister of Israel was really moving for me. So yes, indeed, I have just excellent memories from India.
Wonderful. So someday maybe I would love to see those photos of 30 years
yes,
ago.
I will show you. I was the hair was darker, and but and I was thinner, I think. But yeah, I'll show you.
I'm looking forward to. So yes. So now, as you said, that you were backpacker in India, and these 30 years, and that time only except Israel, all the countries, Indians were allowed to go. And these 30 years, you went there as a head of Asia Pacific, and now you're the ambassador of Japan. So how do you feel these changes? Like, what is the secret of Israelis? These from nowhere to here, you know, where the Indians were not allowed, and today Indians are the friends. So what do you think? What is the secret that this happens?
Yeah, well, first of all, I think it's a change that India went through. I think it's related 30 years ago for the signing, I think, of the peace agreement, Madrid conference, let's say, and then Oslo agreements. And so I think that, you know, it's not only India, it's other partners, major partners here in Asia that joined it and established diplomatic relations. I think it's the notion that Israel is a good player, is someone that is reaching its hand for peace, for collaboration, for contribution for others. I think we can try to send our hand and reach out to India. India can reach out to us. We can learn from India as well. We can do cooperation. I remember then when Prime Minister Netanyahu and Prime Minister Modi went to Gujarat for a Mashav farm, an agricultural farm. We call it a center of excellence. And you know, the farmers there stood up one after each other and said, before Israel came here, I had from my field this amount of rupees. I cannot remember, but now after 2 years that Israel is here, and I came to learn how to fertilize, how to irrigate, how to cultivate my field, I'm earning 20 times more what I earned before. So I was so happy to hear it. I was so moved to hear it, because this is exactly what we want to do, to cooperate, to do things together, to learn from each other, to share our experience on water and others. And I think it's a kind of a natural involvement of the relations, but also understanding in the world that Israel is a partner, is someone. It's not, you know, to portray Israel like what you say about Israel. It's war, Gaza, missiles. No. Israel is high tech, is innovation, is a beautiful place, open place, liberal place, with history, with archaeology, with sophisticated agriculture. You know, I'm saying here to Japanese people who don't know what's Israel. I said Tel Aviv is like Tokyo. It's the same, just the same. So I think that this is the involvement, the evolvement of the relations. And I think it was kind of maturing up and coming up for understanding how we can contribute each other.
Yeah, since you talked about that world, actually, they don't know about what Israel is. They think about Gaza only. So do you think still world misunderstands Israel?
I do, unfortunately. I do. I think that the world, and this is why I work very hard here in Tokyo and Japan to explain, to show, together with the spokesperson of the embassy, Barak Shine, we are working together in order to show exactly what Israel is. I think it's unfair sometimes how some of the media portray Israel. Well, of course, you know, you are a journalist. What is interesting, not that Israel has the #1 high-tech per square meter or startups per square meter in the world in Tel Aviv, but if Hamas shoots, now terrorists sometimes shoots and we are some enemies like Iran and others. They don't accept the notion of a sovereign Israel, a free Israel. And they start the attack. As we are a democracy, exactly like India, exactly like Japan, which has to defend itself sometimes. And we are reaching our hand for peace, but we are strong and we will defend ourselves. And when we have to react, so sometimes the world is saying, when your reaction, and now you are, it's not right, why you do it, and that. But we have to react in order to defend ourselves and to make sure that next time it's called deterrence. Next time they will not shoot at us again. And I think it's this kind of. It's not vicious cycle, because it's not a cycle, because we are trying to defend ourselves. And in the world, so it means that this region, it shows that this region is a region of instability, of conflict, constant conflict, which is not true. It is not true. Israel is one of the safest places on earth, not only because we are stronger, but because we have good intelligence, we have Iron Dome, we have facilities to protect ourselves, but also because we are strong because of our economy in our society. Sometimes I say, when people are asking me about Israel, that we are Athens from the inside, meaning liberal, happy, open. The biggest gay parade in the world is in Tel Aviv. Parties, beaches, fun, food, academy, everything that you think. But we are Sparta for the outside, meaning we will defend ourselves. If you attack us, you will think twice before you attack us again. So this is I think I don't know if it's a perfect combination. I would prefer to be Athens for outside and Athens for inside, and not to have peace with everybody. But until then, we'll show some muscles outside in order to deter from attacking us.
Exactly, we have to defend ourselves. That is also, our duty towards ourselves, toward our countries. So since we talked about terrorism, so India also facing terrorism. Do you have any suggestion? India has been facing terrorism from long time, and it's a
I know.
biggest thing that we have been having from so many years. So do you have any suggestions for that, how we should deal with it?
Well, that's a good question. I wouldn't want to advise the government of India to do. I think they do very good by themselves.
But still, any experience?
But what I want to tell you is the following: terrorism as a terrorism, it's everywhere, and it's pure definition of terrorism. When you attack civilians, when you attack innocent peoples, when you are hiding behind human shields, schools, UN facilities, hospitals, and you shoot from there, this is terrorism. This is the pure definition of terrorism, and terrorism should be fought. Never let terrorism win. Now, of course, we are, as in Israel, we suffered from terrorism on Indian soil. Of course, the attack in Mumbai against our Jewish community center of Chabad, but also in Delhi, when people from our embassy, one of them is a close friend of mine, were attacked. By whom? By the Iranians and their proxies. And they only a year and a half ago, they tried again. I think somebody tried again. I think that terrorism should be fought, but it's not only the terrorism, the groups that you can identify, it can come from anywhere. I think one of the biggest a state sponsor of terrorism in the world is Iran. Iran is trying to have now a deal with the superpowers in order to get resources and money and budgets and give it to the Revolutionary Guards, to give it to terrorism, to sponsor instability in the region, to attack ships, to attack the free passages of oil and energy from this area through Hormuz and to the world, to undermine the moderate countries, the Muslim moderate countries, the Sunni moderate countries in the Gulf, in the region. Iran poses a threat for peace and security, not only in the Middle East, but to the world, through their proxies. They are sending their people. They send them to Baku. They send them to attack our diplomats. They send them to Delhi. They send them to Thailand, to Bangkok, everywhere. Wherever you have this, really, this regime that is using terrorism, they bombed our embassy in Buenos Aires. This is the methods that they are doing. So I think the world should be united against this kind of phenomenon. Stop this activity, stop terrorism, and to fight, of course, against all the groups that are, initiated by Al-Qaeda, by Daesh, by everybody, Hezbollah, Hamas. They're all the same. The world, Nupur, is divided now to two. There are the good guys and the bad guys. And the good guys want to have peace and security and work for their children and grandchildren. And the bad guys just use methods of terrorism. And the bad guys include Iran inside, and also this organization that I've just said. And I think the world should be united against this kind of phenomena. We should live in peace and stop this incitement and stop this terrorism and stop undermining other countries.
Yeah, very rightly you said that world needs peace, and India, Japan, Israel, we are really working for peace. So this is actually what exactly we need for coexistence without violence, killing, and destruction. Like even the previous question was that, but still, anything, do you think that what we need to change the world and just, without to have coexistence without violence? What is your personal view?
I think that we should focus on the things that really matter. Today, Israel is very good in producing weapons, in really very, very sophisticated weapons. We have F-35, we have Iron Dome, we have a lot of capabilities. But believe me, nobody in Israel would want very much to invest in it. We prefer to invest in other things, in technology, in high tech, in better education, in better schools, in a better health system. Israel is the number one country in the world. We were the world laboratory for COVID. We were the first one to vaccinate twice our people, 3 times, to vaccinate all of our children, even to give the 4th one, and to understand it, maybe we don't need the 4th one. But we were really the laboratory to try to share it with the world. And I think the world has learned from what Israel has done. We were the first one to close our borders when we identified the Omicron. And then we were one of the first to open up after we understood that it's not something that was closing down. So I think, and this is health. So it can be science. It can be, let's do common researches. Let's work together. You know what? And I'm saying to you, we don't have any quarrel with the Iranian people. The Farsis were good friends of Israel. We used to have an embassy there. They contribute to the world on heritage, on history, on their legacy, their mathematics, everything. Why? Why is that this? Why do you hate us so much? Why do you say that Israel should be destroyed? What's the reason? Why do you have? Why can't we work together? Why to undermine each other? Why to send terrorists? Why do you send terrorists against us and against other? Why do you shoot Japanese ships? Why do you shoot diplomats? Why do you shoot Aramco in Saudi Arabia, the oil production? Why do you shoot the Emirates? Why do you do this? Through the Houthis, through proxies, but also themselves. So what I'm saying, this is not the way. And I think if I said about the Iranian people, I think they don't like it, the majority of them. They want to live in peace. They don't need a nuclear bomb. They don't need to threaten anybody because they are not threatened. Nobody is threatening Iran. Why do you threaten others? So what I'm saying is, I think it's a change of mind, a concept of saying that we should resolve things peacefully, even if there are disputes, commercial disputes, territorial disputes, national disputes, in peaceful way, and we should concentrate in what matters. You know, I'm sounding like Miss Universe, world peace. Well, it's a nice thing to say world peace, but we have to work for it. But I think that what we should do is to and I'm saying it as a proud Israeli, which has to defend itself. And I know it's kind of a dream what I told you, but I think that we should know first have to defend ourselves, and after we defend ourselves, we want to live like in Athens. We want to prosper, and we want not only us to prosper, we want our friends to prosper. We want our neighbors to prosper. Yes, Arabs and Jews alike, and we want to give the world whatever we can do in order for us to contribute. You know, a lot of Israelis, I don't know the number of Israelis who are Nobel laureates are the highest in the world per the population of Israel, on mathematics, on chemistry, on biology, on peace and others. But again, this shows you that Israel wants to contribute to the world, not to be someone else. And I hope that the other partners will join us in this endeavor.
Indeed, it's not like Miss Universe. Actually, we all have to work together. So let's to bring the peace in the world. And I think that good sense prevail. And the people who are really involved in terrorism, they just can think that life is only one. Why not just having a good life and giving others also good life? I think that is the thing we have to work on. But I hope that, yes, working together, we can change the world. So one more, since you talked about Iran, India is mostly having problems with Pakistan. What do you think about Pakistan?
It's a good question. And I'm tell you the following. India is a partner of Israel. India is a strategic partner of Israel. And we cooperate fully with India. This is not against no third party, but I'm focusing on India and building on our friendship with India. That's it.
Great, very diplomatic answer. Wonderful. And now we are going to a little bit lighter. Like, I have got a lot of questions. The same questions are that how Israeli men and women are so beautiful. Why is that? And men are so handsome. Like, what exactly you all eat?
That's a question which I don't know how to answer. I'm not, my color, I cannot be blushed, so I cannot. I take it as a compliment to my colleagues here, and I tell you the following: I wouldn't want to comment about how beauty women are or not. I don't think this is the question. I think the right question is how I prefer to talk about their skills, about their abilities, about their integration and full equity between men and women. We try to do it in Israel. This is so important, the women's empowerment. We have 1/3 of our cabinet ministers, they are women. 26% of our, or 30% of our women in the parliament, in the Knesset, are women. Director generals of ministries in Israel are women, many of them. And I think we should work more in having more women equal. You are 50% of the population. You have to be 50% in all fields. It's not only in the government, but in all sectors. This is what's important, not if they are beautiful or not beautiful. I don't think this is fair to discuss it, but I think
discuss and judge. Yeah, definitely.
I take your compliment.
And definitely, these questions, like so many came from all these young guys and young girls.
It's fine. We were young girls. I was young. You are young, but and I understand it. But again, I think this is what's important, not to talk about how people outside, but what is important.
Empowerment.
Exactly, the empowerment. Exactly.
Empowerment is the most important. Then Israel is really, doing great on women empowerment, and I'm sure that the rest of the world also following Israel.
It's also the guy that's asked about women, why they are so beautiful or not. But they said in the army, many of we talk about the army itself. Many of the women in the army are combat soldiers. Pilots, they are integrated. The soldiers are female soldiers are integrated in all fields. My daughter wants to be a combat soldier. She wants to be a combat soldier. It's not, she doesn't want to work in an office or something. So I think this is what's important, and this is the answer for all the young and not so young people that ask this question.
Viewers. Yeah. So that was also the question, like all the women in army, they're so beautiful. So that was also another question came from.
I think I answered it.
Yes, you did. You did, definitely. And so what is the best thing you like about India and Japan? Even one thing would be fine.
Well, so many. I think I said before, but I'll repeat it again. It's the land, and I'm speaking about Japan and India together. I don't have to. It's beauty. It's the culture. It's the heritage. It's the respect for tradition. It's the combination between tradition and modernity. It's the food. I love Japanese food. I adore Indian food. This is the best cuisines I've ever had. And I had some cuisines back that I know. I think that the way of people thinking, the hospitality, the openness, the learning from each other, how we think differently, I think it fascinates me. The harmony, and I think so many things that are really, really exciting me. Of course, India and Japan are different. It's different countries, it's different landscape, different people, different food. But I'm fascinated by these two ancient philosophies and cultures, which I think we all, we are very ancient. Japan, India, and Israel. We are going thousands of years back. And I think we can today, as we celebrate new relationships, it's quite new, let's say.
Yes.
The 70 years and 30 years, it's quite new in relationship. I think that the sky's the limit. I think the future will be bright, both to Israel, Japan, and India.
Exactly. So if you are told you can do only 3 things in Japan or in India, what those 3 things would be?
Well, in Japan, I would like to have, let's say, a presidential visit here, bilateral visit. It will be very important. It will be a historic visit because there was never a bilateral visit. His father, the late President Herzog came here, but for the funeral and coronation of the emperor and his father. I would like to have direct flights. This is an engine that is very, very important. It was supposed to happen in March 20, and now it's postponed due to the circumstances of Corona. I hope that this year we can launch it again. It's really important because it's an engine for everything, for diplomatic relations, for tourism, for business. It's very, very important. And I think that I would like to go for, in Japan, the same partnership like we have with India, the same level of partnership which we have with India. I think this is the main issues. And I think with India, again, I'm not the ambassador in India, so I can't tell, but I think that a free trade agreement will be very, very nice. I think boosting the relations, the civilian relations on water cooperation, on agriculture, on high tech. This is very, very important. Caregivers and others, some agreements. And I think to build more on the defense relations, good relations that we have between the countries. I think this is the most great things, but I have many more here, many agreements here in Japan to work. We are working very hard in the embassy. My people sometimes are really exhausted from the hard work that they are doing, but they are working very hard. And I think that with Japan now, it's kind of, we call it the sakura. The time has come for really blossom of the relations. I think we should thank also Prime Minister Abe, that was the previous Prime Minister that really worked and built the pillars for this new relationship, which really are going in a very good way. And I'm very, very happy to be here.
Wonderful. So my last question would be, what is your favorite Indian food and your favorite Japanese food?
Well, I love sushi, of course, but udon and soba also, and yakitori and others. But again, it's kind of, I went to a really very nice restaurants here. I like very much ramen. Indian food, I like everything, dal bat and dal and chicken masala, and I forgot the names of all the Indian food, but I really, really love the Indian food. When I was in Israel, when I was the DG, Director General for Asia Pacific, my good friend, Ambassador Singla, the Indian ambassador to Israel, invited me several times to have some kind of tasting of Indian street foods, and this really was amazing. So I miss him, and I miss the good dinners we had together. Sanjeev is a good friend of mine, and I really want to send through you my best wishes also to him and to India, a true friend of Israel.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And I'm looking forward to meeting you in person, definitely. And I would love to take you to a good Indian restaurant. Good Indian food. By
all means. I thank you so much for inviting me, and thank you very much for having me today.
Thank you so much. It was my honor to have you. Thank you so much. Namaste, arigato gozaimasu. And I would love to learn how to say thank you in Hebrew. How to say
Toda raba.
Toda haba.
Yes, toda raba.
Toda haba. So thank you. Namaste, arigato gozaimasu, and toda haba.
Arigato gozaimashita. Thank you so much.
Subscribe now and press the bell icon. Never miss an update.